What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for November 13th, 2022. We got a lot to get to today, but first, a couple quick updates. Flyers fell flat to the Ottawa Senators last night. They just didn't really seem to have it going. That's okay. They're a young team. That's going to happen. They bounce back. They play another matinee today against the Stars, so we'll see how that goes for them. Sixers came back, beat the Hawks last night. Little disconcerting that they were up big and let the Hawks back into it. Again, I think that goes back to coaching. I don't know. It's not. There's no way you should be doing that. And like Joel Embiid had a monster game, but they still almost blew it. And again, I don't know if it's defense, what it is, but something, like I said, we need to keep an eye on this because it could get out of hand very, very quickly. So they actually bounce back today. They play the Jazz tonight, so hopefully they can keep the winning ways going in spite of Doc Rivers, but we'll see. I didn't mention this yesterday, but I did want to give a shout out to my Temple football Owls who played the Houston Cougars down in Houston last night. They came in as 20-point underdogs, and they played well. They jumped out. They came down and scored on the first drive of the game. They battled back and forth with them. They got down 9 points a couple times due to a missed extra point and then a failed 2-point conversion. But they were in it. They came down. The defense came up with a big turnover. The offense came down and scored, and then the defense just kind of broke down, let a guy get behind him, and Houston scored the touchdown to win 43-36, I believe is what the final was. But Kurt Warner's son, E.J. Warner, had over 500 yards passing. It appears that he's going to be a pretty decent quarterback, real deal. He's a little short, but that might actually play in our advantage to help keep him there on North Broad. I'm hoping that he stays. I'm hoping that Drayton stays as coach because I like what he's building there. He's got them playing with confidence. The defense typically plays pretty well. Warner, like I said, I think he might be the real deal. He's a true freshman. This is the only thing, like I said, that concerns me is the fact that he's Kurt Warner's son. Now that he's playing well, he might attract some attention, but he is 6 foot, so I don't know if any big programs. Who knows what happens? But for the time being, next year should be a good time for our Temple Owls. But I wanted to give them a shout out. Now, for this day in Philly sports history, there wasn't necessarily one specific major big event that really stuck out to me when I was doing the research. So I'm going to do 3 smaller ones just to see just to go over so we have some things. And they're fun things and interesting things, but nothing like that major groundbreaking event. There was no major playoff games or anything like that. But the first one, Darryl Dawkins back in 1979 broke and shattered his first backboard in the NBA. And it was happening in Kansas City, and everybody was like in shock that, oh my goodness. But he would go on to do it a few more times throughout his career, but it did lead the NBA to use shatterproof backboards. You didn't really see much happening in the way of broken baskets or broken backboards until Shaq came along back in the early 90s. But on this day, 1979, Darryl Dawkins broke his first backboard in the NBA. I know a lot of the players were not happy because they had glass all over the floor. I believe Dr. J had glass in his afro. It was just a hot mess. So just one of those fun little facts. Sticking with the Sixers, we go back a couple years earlier. 1976, they won their third in a row. They beat the Washington Bullets, who are now the Wizards, 114-109 to improve to 7-4 on the season. The reason why this season and this day is sort of important is this was Dr. J's first year, and they had basically bought his contract for $6 million from the Nets because there wasn't the ABA and the NBA merged prior to this season. Dr. J, for whatever reason, didn't want to play for for the Nets. There was just basically the Nets mortgaged their future to get into the NBA. They had to pay for like an entry fee, which was $3 million, and they had that contract and everything. So somewhere along the line, the Sixers offered $6 million, which basically covered Dr. J's contract as well as their entry fee into the league. So kind of in a roundabout way, you could say that without the Sixers, the Nets may not be in the NBA. I don't know if you can make that leap. But anyway, so that team, though, they finally got over the hump. They were just 4 or 5 years removed from having the worst record in NBA history, that 72 Sixers team, 72-73. They would go on to win the Eastern Conference, go to the NBA Finals, go up 2-0 on the Portland Trail Blazers, who were led by Bill Walton at the time. And then Bill Walton got his championship with Portland. He was a young Bill Walton at that time before the back issues. And they lost four straight, but this was the start of the Sixers being one of the elite teams, not only in the Eastern Conference, but in the NBA. And I think because the Celtics won so many times to go to the finals to play the Lakers, people often forget how good those Sixers teams were. It was basically the Sixers, Lakers, and Celtics. Those were the 3 teams in the league that were consistently at the top. And because the Celtics tended to beat the Sixers most of the time, people forget that the Sixers were pretty damn good. And like between, I think, probably the 76, 77 and probably 86, most of the time, with the exception of, I think, maybe the Knicks went one time in the 70s and maybe the Pacers, whoever it is. But most of those games, and I'd have to look it up and I'll do my homework and figure it out for you guys. But most of the Eastern Conference representative in the NBA Finals were the Sixers or the Celtics. So just something that year in 1976-77 started it all off. But on this day, the Sixers won their third game in a row to go to 7-4 to open their season, which they would go on to win the Eastern Conference Final. And finally, this is going to be a preview, foreshadow what's going to happen in this week on Back to the Future. The 1994 Eagles lost to the Cleveland Browns 26-7, and this was their first of 7 straight. We covered this a couple times last week. They lost 7 in a row after going 7-2, which led to Rich Kotite being fired. This was Jeffrey Lurie's first year owning the team, so he definitely was not happy and got rid of Kotite at the end of the season. And I think this beginning of this stretch is what led to the demise of Rich Kotite. And I question whether nobody hated him in 91. Nobody really hated him in 92. Nobody hated him in 93 because of injuries and this, that. He had them playing well before Randall and those guys got injured. No excuse for this. And I'm not saying, I'm not being a Rich Kotite apologist right now, but I kind of think this was the final nail in his coffin because he didn't do anything when he went to the Jets either. So no Eagle game today. They play tomorrow night against Washington. So enjoy your football. Go to a pumpkin patch. Rake some leaves. Just enjoy yourself. Have yourself a Sunday. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.